Anyone who has anything of value seeks to protect that thing. And protecting something precious and valuable means that we keep it in a place where it cannot easily be accessed, it cannot be tampered with, it cannot be easily taken. If we have valuables in our home, we won't keep them in front of the door and say, well, it's in the house and this house is private property and no one should enter it, and that's how I'm going to protect my valuables. No one really does that. We'll make sure the door is locked. Of all valuable things in this world, our iman and our good deeds are the most precious. These are the things that benefit us in this life and they benefit us in the hereafter. Like valuables of a worldly nature, we also need layers of protection for the valuables of a spiritual nature. And the more layers of protection we add, the more difficult it becomes from shaitan to take those away from us. So the core of everything is iman. Iman is the basis of everything. Faith, belief, it is the most important thing. And then after that, the fara'id, the obligations. Faith is guarded by these obligations. And the obligations, those things that are necessary, those things that are required in the religion, these also have a layer of protection that is called the sunnah. So the sunnahs then become a fortress around the obligations. The sunnahs, meaning those things that the Prophet ﷺ always did or very strongly emphasized for us to do, these also have a layer of protection, and that is the mustahabbat. Those things that the Prophet ﷺ encouraged us to do, or he gave some motivation about, but it was not mandated as a necessary practice. So you have iman, then around it you have the fara'id, the obligations, and then the fara'id are surrounded by the sunnahs, and these are the emphasized sunnah practices in our deen, and then these are also covered with a layer of practices that are not necessary or required, but they have been highly recommended. As an example, the Prophet ﷺ taught us to make wudu carefully and diligently and then come to the masjid. And he taught us that coming early is a thing of reward, because as long as a person is sitting in the masjid waiting for salat, he is getting the reward of salat. A person who comes early to the masjid will be able to pray the nawafil, pray tahiyatul masjid, which is a recommended practice. And they will be able to pray the sunnahs before that salat. And then they will be also able to perform that salat with jama'ah properly. And this way they will be able to uphold this very important pillar of Islam. Like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, حافظوا على الصلوات and وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ عَلَى صَلَاتِهِمْ يُحَافِظُونَ. These people are not just praying their prayers, but they are guarding their prayers. So we guard things and protect them by adding layers. A person who rushes to salat might catch the salat, they might miss the salat. A person who gets into the habit of doing that and is not taking out the time to come earlier, well, it's going to become more and more of a regular occurrence that they will start missing parts of the salat with jama'ah. Or they might decide that, oh, it's too late, I'm just going to pray at home. And then it gets a habit to pray at home. Eventually, because at home there are many things that they're busy with, preoccupied with, distracted with, they might delay the salat from its time. They might even miss the time of salat. And then this becomes a pattern, and it just keeps going until the salat is seriously compromised. This person is also praying salat to some extent, but they are not safeguarding it. They're not protecting their salat. Sometimes we develop the mindset that, oh, is it necessary? Is it fard? And we say about things that are discouraged that, oh, is it haram? Because if it's not haram, I'm going to do it. And if that thing is not fard, then I'm not going to do it. But what we're missing out on is those layers of protection. Now, Abdullah ibn Mubarak rahimahullah has a very famous saying regarding this. He says, "Man tahawana bil adab," a person who is negligent of the etiquettes. And adab here is in the meaning of mustahabbat, the recommended practices around any teaching of Islam. Because there will be some bare minimum practices that absolutely must be done, and then there will be recommended practices. A person who is negligent and who does not take these recommended practices with any sense of seriousness, then the outcome is عُوقِبَ بِحِرْمَانِ السُّنَنِ. This person has missed a step. And the outcome of this is that they are going to start compromising the sunnahs. These are the emphasized practices. وَمَنْ تَهَاوَنَ بِالسُّنَنِ عُوقِبَ بِحِرْمَانِ الْفَرَائِضِ. The outcome of neglecting the sunnah, the emphasized practices, will be that this person will start becoming deprived of the fara'id themselves. Why? Because it's another layer that they have removed, another layer of protection that they've taken away. وَمَنْ تَهَاوَنَ بِالْفَرَائِضِ عُوقِبَ بِحِرْمَانِ الْمَعْرِفَةِ. A person who starts becoming neglectful in the obligations, then their punishment is that they are deprived of ma'rifah, of the recognition of Allah. In other words, iman itself. So iman is protected with layers and layers and layers. And another thing that this approach to guarding our faith and practices does for us is that it makes it very, very hard for shaitan to access our deeds. A person who is only praying the fara'id, shaitan has no layers to get through in order to tamper with his fara'id. He can go and directly attack them because they're exposed. But a person who's protecting their fara'id with the sunan and protecting the sunan with the mustahabbat, shaitan has many layers to go through before they can tamper with their fard. And the fard is paramount. And the fard is essentially what enables a person to maintain their iman. Once the fara'id drop, then iman is next on the list, and it goes very quickly. So diligence in recommended practices will lead to upholding the emphasized practices. And diligence in the emphasized practices leads to safeguarding the obligations. And safeguarding the obligations protects a person's iman.